Everyone. It's almost like you can smell spring break, right? There's sun in the air. Spring break is what? Who's counting? 5 days away? Something like that? 4 days away? Okay, today we're going to talk about competitions and then also law review. We're going to spend more time on law review than competitions, but I'm going to start with competitions. And to do that, I have a trivia question, which comes with a prize even. I know, it's not that big of a prize, but it's not that hard of a trivia question. So I'm going to show you a slide. First hand up who gets it right. I want to know who this is. You ready? Okay. Yep. Right here. Oh, Mr. Miyagi. Good catch. See, I told you there was a prize. Skittles. They're rainbow delicious. Okay, why am I showing Mr. Miyagi? I'm previewing a little bit what we'll talk about as we come back after spring break to talk about curricular choices and how you build what the rest of your law school looks like, but it's relevant to today too. Obviously, sort of Mr. Miyagi's key point to Daniel is balance, right? Balance in all things, balance in life, and I think that's important for your law school career as well. So the way I think you want to think about building your law school career after the first year, which sort of gives you this really nice, strong foundation, is you want to think about trying to balance three things at all times, and if you can, every semester, but if you can't, at least across every year, right? So you want to do things that are preparing you to be an attorney. This could be doctrinal courses, it could be skills courses. You also want to prepare for, if you know what practice area you want to be in, that particular practice area, or if you don't, maybe explore different practice areas. I think a lot of you will find that you thought you wanted to do criminal law and you hate it with a white-hot passion once you try it out, or you wanted to do tax law and you hate that with a white-hot passion, but you love criminal law, right? Like once you try things, you get sort of different flavors for them. So another thing I think you want to try to balance is doing that, either preparing for or exploring practice areas. And then the last thing is you really want to just have some fun. Especially after the first year. The first year is full of fun. I know at every turn and corner, right? You get to write these memos and take your first year exams. Like the Civ Pro exam is really short. And so you have all these things you're sort of, getting yourself ready for. And, of course, it's not like the second year and the third year become easy all of a sudden. But you want to inject things that are fun or of interest to you throughout your time in law school as much as you can, I think, and find that right balance, right? Okay. So I'm going to talk about some of the different competitions that we have here at the law school. There's one that's really internal, and then there's a bunch that are external, meaning you go to other places to do them. But I think these competitions can actually help you do all of these things, right? They can be really fun. Some of my most fun experiences as a law professor has been as a coach to some of these competitions. You can learn an extraordinary amount, both in terms of your skills and the doctrine, and that can translate to a general area of law, or it can be sort of just in terms of being a lawyer, how you advocate, how you articulate yourself, how you respond to questions, how you start really diving into the sort of higher level skill of not just being able to analyze or issue spot, but to be able to make arguments or to present positions to negotiate. Okay, so let's talk about the first competition, which is the internal one. This is Trainer. This is the one that we run every spring, and you can do it as a 2L or as a 3L. It's an appellate and moot court competition, so you're going to work on writing skills, advocacy skills, oral advocacy skills, and it comes with a lot of benefits. You're going to get exposed to local lawyers and judges. I've seen people get jobs out of being in this competition and bumping into lawyers who are looking for somebody or bumping into judges who are looking for a clerk. You also will get really good preparation for other competitions, especially if you want to do another appellate competition. If you win this competition, or you're sort of in the upper echelon of the performers, you can be a member of the National Moot Court team, which is the next year, and then you go on as a 3L and go to New York and regional competitions. As I mentioned, it's fun. And then the other thing to keep in mind is if you're interested in doing Trainer, you'll do better in this course if you've taken appellate practice or take it at the same time. So you want to keep that in mind in terms of scheduling as you look at this competition. Okay, and the other thing that I didn't put up on the slide, but I'll just note, you also have a benefit at this moment in time of being guaranteed to not have the hardest panel ever. Because what we do is for the last panel, the championship round, we bring in external judges. And a few years ago, the panel was Christine Durham, who is the former Chief Justice of the Utah Supreme Court, Scott Matheson, our former dean, who's on the 10th Circuit, and this guy named John Roberts, you might have heard of him, Chief Justice of the U.S. Supreme Court. So if you can imagine yourself a year from now arguing a case before that panel and them asking you questions, yeah, I might have been a little nervous if I were a 2L. Okay, so we get good panels, but I don't think we're going to have one that's quite that stacked for a while. Okay, so that's trainer. We also have some other competitions. There's a bunch of them. I've listed them all here. I'm just going to sort of walk through each one very briefly. So the National Moot Court team I already mentioned. This is sort of our premier appellate practice competition. So writing a brief, arguing positions, you flip sides, and this is chosen from trainers. So if you want to be on this, you've got to do trainer as a 2L. We also have a Jessup competition, which is for international law. Last year they made it to the final rounds, which moves around the world, but last year was in DC. And this brings in people from all over the world. So, schools in Australia or Europe compete in this once you get to the final rounds. PACE is some law school in this place called White Plains, New York, which is sort of like Sandy, except in New York. And that's the National Environmental Law Competition. We've done quite well in this over the years. We've won Best Brief, we've won Second Best Brief, we've made the finals a few times. This is the premier environmental law competition. We also do the West Virginia University Energy and Sustainability Competition. This is modeled heavily on the PACE competition, uses sort of the same format, but pared down a little bit. It's in Bucolic, Morgantown, West Virginia. If you win this, I guess you get to burn a couch maybe, which is what they do when they win football games there. But it's actually a really fun competition. I've coached a team there before, and if you want to do PACE, this would be a good competition to try to do as a 2L and sort of line you up for PACE, or you could do trainer. Both of those are, again, appellate competitions. We do the Giles Rich competition, which is for intellectual property. We do Law Meet, so shout out to Professor Wong who just walked in. She helps coach this. Really an amazing experience, and you get to work in depth with her, and then often either Professor Schwartz or Professor Romney, one of our adjunct instructors, and learn negotiation skills and how to broker a deal. It's a transactional focus if you're interested in business law. We also have mediation and negotiation competitions, trial advocacy, which is exactly what it sounds like if you want to be a litigator, civil or criminal litigator. Trial advocacy is a great competition. And we'll actually be hosting the regional version of that next year here. And then bankruptcy is something that Ralph Mabey often does. It's a bankruptcy negotiation competition. Okay, so I have one other thing to say before I say it. I guess any questions about competitions? Yes? Okay, so Ms. Race's question is, do you need some of the other courses like evidence or Fed courts to do the appellate competition? I don't think, for trainer, you certainly don't. I think the best matchup there is appellate practice. We'll talk after spring break about what courses to take generally, and those are good courses to take. I think my personal opinion is everybody should take evidence at some point, irrespective of what you're going to do after law school. But I don't think you really need them. I think evidence would help a bit for trial advocacy is probably the one competition where that course would help. But a lot of these, except for the sort of subject matter specific ones, I don't think there's any subject matter specific courses you want to take, right? But if you're going to do PACE, for instance, you want to have taken environmental law and administrative law probably. If you're going to do, IP, you want to do some IP stuff. If you're going to be, in Law Meet, what should they be doing besides biz orgs for Law Meet? Biz orgs is the only requirement for Law Meet. Okay, so biz orgs for Law Meet, right? So you can match up sort of courses with competitions. Okay, Ms. Nuvan, you had a question.
Yeah, I was wondering how
Okay, so the question is, how do they fit into your schedule? What's the time commitment? And then can you do more than one? So let me take them in the order I want to take them in. So can you do more than one? Yes, but a lot of these also travel, right? So we try to make sure that people that have gotten one chance aren't bumping somebody else out, because we're using law school funds to send you different places, you know, like Morgantown, West Virginia. Pretty sweet place you get to go. Okay, so you can, but you kind of got to sort of watch that. The one exception is anybody can do trainer, and then once you've done trainer, that will prepare you for a lot of these other appellate ones. What is the time commitment like, and what does the schedule look like? Some of them have set schedules. A lot of them, so trainer will have sort of a set schedule. A lot of them will not have any sort of set schedule, and the coaches, who are typically faculty members or adjunct faculty members, will work out what the practice schedule is. You'll know when the competition is, so you can see that, and you might have to miss a few days of class to go to the competition to travel. But usually the practice times are kind of set up in an arranged basis. And then what's the time commitment? The time commitment varies. Some of these competitions require more time than others, but like pretty much anything in life, the amount of time you put into it is sort of the benefit you get out of it, right? So when I've coached pace before, for instance, I tell my students, you know, I'm not willing to do this unless you're willing to try really hard, which means that by the time we're done, I expect you to be good enough that I would want to hire you to be my lawyer, which is a high bar in general, because I just think we should do excellence in everything, but also a high bar because I don't have a lot of money. So like, you better be a pretty dang good lawyer if I'm going to spend my own money to hire you, right? So I'll give you an example of PACE. You know, in PACE you do a brief in the fall. I think the problem comes out sort of October 1st, and then it goes in sort of right after Thanksgiving or around Thanksgiving time. So for those 2 months, you're spending a lot of time researching and writing and polishing your brief. And then you get a break and you do exams, and you come back, and right after the beginning of the new year, we'll start practices. And my practices, at least as I've done them, are usually twice a week for about 3 or 4 hours at a time. And then there's a lot of work in between to get ready. Then you go to PACE or White Plains in the middle of February, and then it's over. So it can be kind of concentrated. But the other thing I think you'll find a lot of students, and you can find students who've done it, or you can find alums who've done these competitions, they'll tell you this is really where you can often pull everything together that you're doing in law school and really see it come to life. And so I think to a person, every student I've ever talked to who's done the competitions I've been involved with have said it's the best experience they had in law school. And it was hard, but they would do it all over again because they became so much better of a lawyer as a result of it. Other questions? Yes, sir. When do you apply for them varies from competition to competition. So some of them are in the fall, some of them are in the spring. So we'll send out calls for sort of applications for ones that you want to be interested in. Trainer, again, is in spring of the second year. So you can just sign up for that, right? But again, keep in mind this idea about whether you want to do appellate practice with it. You'll be better at the class if you've done appellate practice. Yep. Yes, you get course credit. It varies from competition to competition. How many is trainers? 1 or 2?
Trainer is 1. Most of the others are
2. Okay, yeah. So most of these are 2. Trainer is 1. Yep.
How's the grading work?
Some of them are pass-fail, some of them are for grades. But you have plenty of credits you can take pass-fail. And I know this not only because the numbers is 18. There's 18 credits you can take pass-fail, but also I've looked at data and almost nobody hits that. So you got plenty of credits you can use. I know, me and data, I'm always looking at the data. You gotta love the data. All right, any other questions? Yep.
Sorry to mention this, but
You just apply it. So the question is, how do you apply? You apply as an individual, and then you're selected or not, right? So you might have it as your dream to do it with your BFF, who sits next to you in every class, and you pass notes, right? But it may be your BFF gets selected and you don't, or maybe you both do. You just never know. For trainer, you can pick and pair up. So for trainer, you could do it with your BFF.
And a couple of them, I think trial ad, mediation, and negotiation, you're kind of chosen because you will have taken those classes and you're asked to be on the team. But most of the others, you'll have an info session. I think you have one on Jessup on Wednesday, don't you? Or am I making that up? Anyway, they'll have an info session, or just, you know, send an email saying if you're interested, send in your application. So read your, you know.
Yep.
How many spots?
Again, depends on the competition. So PACE, 3 people. West Virginia, it's been 2 or 4. Trial ad is 4. So it really varies from competition to competition. But again, trainer, you can just sign up. Okay. Anything else? Okay, so here's the last thing I've got to say, and then you'll have to quit looking at my bearded face and you'll get better people up here. Okay, so the law review folks are going to come up and talk about law review. I just want to, also the law review advisor, and Professor Reinhardt was going to come do this, but she had to go to another meeting, so I'm doing it. So you can imagine me as Reinhardt. I'll try to do like a subtle Southern accent, I don't know, and listen to Migos, and is that what I'm supposed to do? Okay, so, which by the way, I tried them. They're terrible. Migos. I guess it's the 2 L's. I'm not Reinhardt. But she told me she doesn't like them either. They just write it on her board all the time. All right. So here's the thing, law review. Do law review. It's good for you. I know. But it actually is. It has a lot of benefits, right? So you're going to learn a bunch of stuff. You're going to learn how to blue book, which sounds about as exciting as it is, except that there's this thing called employers like you to be able to blue book. Judges like to be able to blue book. Law firms like to be able to blue book. It's actually a really marketable skill. You're also going to get to hang around other people who are doing it, and so it's a fun communal activity. I can say this personally. I did 5 years of law review in law school, and no, that does not mean it took me 5 years to graduate from law school. I did 3 years of the Environmental Journal and 2 years of regular law review. So you learn a lot. You get to dive into articles. You get to read sort of the cutting edge legal resources coming out. It's also a huge resume line in terms of just generally lots of firms or others will look at it. And then if you're interested in judicial clerking, and again, remember there's a clerkship for anybody, and if you want to talk about any kind of clerkship, I or anybody on the clerkship committee is happy to talk to you. A lot of judges really like it, and there is a not insignificant number of judges that won't even look at you unless you've done law review. So that's another key thing to keep in mind. You do get credit for it, which I'm incredibly jealous of, because for my 5 years of law review, I got 0 credits. You all get credit. You get to write a note, and your note is one of the things that will satisfy one of the 3 portfolio writing requirements you have to do. And the other thing about it is it's sort of one of those things that I believe in these, right? Like things you can do in your life that can never be taken away from you, like running a marathon, right? Nobody can take away the slow times I have on all my marathons. Law review is the same way, right? Like once you've done it, it follows you around for your whole life. So that's my introduction and plug for law review. It rocks. Not as much as Civ Pro, but it rocks. And I will now yield the podium to our law review friends.
Thanks, Dean Davies, and thank you all for being here. My name is Jen Jocelyn. I'm the editor-in-chief of the Utah Law Review. We're really excited to see this much interest from your class in these competitions and in law review. This meeting is both informational. We do want to give you kind of the general roadmap of what it means to get onto law review, but ultimately we want this to be a hype meeting. So I think our first goal is to combat the notion that law review only matters if you want to do X, Y, and Z. So maybe some of you don't want to work for a big firm, you don't want to work for a judge. That doesn't mean that law review should not be important to you. So the way that we're going to accomplish that, first we want to introduce you to our board and let you all know that we are open and available to you over the course of the next few months as you make your decision. Feel free to approach us with questions anytime. Then we're going to add to Professor Davies' testimony. We're going to have Professor Huang come up and say a bit more about why law review has inherent value. We'll have Brandon Fuller, one of our executive footnote editors, talk more about why blue booking matters in all contexts in the legal profession. And then we're going to have Richie talk more about the ins and outs of actually writing on to law review. So can we have our board members come up? Thanks, everyone. So again, Jen Jocelyn, I'm the editor-in-chief.
Elena Todorova, I've been sending you guys the emails. I am executive articles editor.
And I'm Mike Harmon. I'm the executive managing editor, and I'm sure these titles mean nothing to you right now, but they'll become more clear later.
Yeah. I'm Richie Scoville. I'm the associate managing editor.
I'm Kayla Weiser, and I'm the executive environmental editor. I'm the Elena of the environmental issue.
The Elena of our social justice issue unfortunately couldn't make it because she's in a trial downtown. That's Cody Condos, so she's, again, the executive social justice editor. You're welcome to seek her out as well. I want to just give a quick, thank you everyone for coming up. I want to give like the briefest of brief overviews of what this even is. Oh, sorry.
I'm the aforementioned Brandon Fuller, the executive footnote editor / Blue Book guy. It's an awesome title, awesome job.
It is. I'm so sorry, Brandon. This is what we're doing here. So this is full of articles written by professors all over the country. We, as a team, select those articles, and then we work together to edit them and get them publishing ready. So this is what we're producing at the end of the year. Professor Wong, would you come up and give your perspective of why this matters from a student's perspective and also as an author, what it means?
You're going to realize what a big mistake this was to ask me to come here. So how many of you guys like to be in power? You like to tell other people what to do? So I was an editor when I was a student, and then I practiced as a business lawyer, and then now I'm on the author side, and I will tell you that nobody in America has more power than the 52 L's who get to be law review editors on the selection staff. So like somewhere out all over America, people worship your Jen Jocelyn's and your Elena Todorovas and all of these other people who I haven't had in my class, Richie, Brendan,
Okay.
guy in plaid shirt, Elena for the environmental issue. You guys are heroes somewhere, right? So I just had 2 articles accepted, and I remember like there's this kid from, in my case it was Virginia Law Review, this kid's calling me and they were like, hey, we just accepted your article, and I was like, what did you say? It was amazing. I remember my first big article that I'd gotten accepted. I remember the kid who accepted it. I call him a kid, but it was, forgive me. The wonderful 2L editor who accepted it, I remember his name, right? It's Marcus Brazil. He made my career and allowed me to be here with you guys. So I think law review is fabulous. If you like to have power, this is a great place for you to flex those powerful muscles. More seriously, there's kind of 2 reasons I think law review is really useful for everyone. One is that you get better at things by practicing, right? So you become more detail-oriented, you get better at blue booking, you get better at editing. These are all really, really important skills for a lawyer, and it's going to be, like Professor Davies said, extremely marketable. Everybody can get better at it until you can spot an italicized space, which I can. You need to be on law review so that you can learn that skill. And it's going to be amazing. Like, Christmas cards from your friends, they're never going to be the same, right? You don't have to read that that stuff. You don't have to read that stuff about their kids and how cute they are, whatever. You just get to read it for the italicized spaces and periods and judge them for their bad line ending. It's going to be a lot better. And then the other thing, in addition to this opportunity to practice your writing and your editing and have other people work with you on it, is that it's actually just a really important endeavor. So in other disciplines, there's often a peer review process. And you'll hear people complain about how law reviews are not a peer review process. But I actually think it's really fabulous, right? So in peer reviewed disciplines, it tends to be that the establishment view of a particular thing becomes entrenched, right? Because the most famous people in that field are editing the journals, and they tend to choose articles that reflect their views, that support what they think. But in the law review process, 2Ls and 3Ls are involved in the selection process. And so you all really come to the field of legal scholarship with a lot more, like you're fresh, right? You look at new ideas and you're like, that's a new idea and that makes sense to me and I like it. So I'm going to take it and we're going to work on this. And that's how new ideas really... It's the crook, right? And that's how new ideas grow a lot faster in legal scholarship because you all are involved in the selection process and you're fresh and unbiased. And as a result, I think our field is better than all the other fields. It's not a competition except that it is. But yeah, that's why I think it's a really important endeavor. You get to be part of that endeavor, and you're an essential and important part of that endeavor. So I'm happy to answer questions or go away. Questions?
Are you also happy to answer questions outside of this, like when people approach you?
Absolutely, I'm totally happy to do that. You can come by, and if you don't want to work for a judge and you don't want to do litigation and you still want to know if law review is useful, I can just tell you yes, and you can believe me, or you can come by and we can talk about it for like an hour, and then you're gonna believe me anyway. So we can do either of those things. Yes. In our journal? How many of you faculty members are actually involved in our journal? So you have 1 or 2 advisors.
Yeah, we have a couple of advisors, but from our experience, everyone wants to be involved. Everyone is contacting us about their colleagues and their friends who are submitting to us right now. They want to be involved in how we select things. They want to be able to mentor us and help us with it. So I feel like there's no not.
On an informal basis, I get a lot of information about law review, like, could you take a look at this abstract, like, does it seem reasonable, or like, individual, like, not this year, but last year, like, people doing the first round review would come and be like, I'm reading this article, I'm not sure if it's very good, like, can you help me decide if it's very good? So yeah, and that makes me happy because it's power for me and I like this. Yes.
So how many students?
Oh, okay, now I'm going to switch it over so you guys can actually talk. But I'm happy to answer any other questions that you might have.
Yeah, so I think we'll give you more details about that as we go. In general, it tends to hover around 30 to 35. There's no hard limit, so we're looking at desire to be on the journal and ability to perform well on the journal. We're not going to set arbitrary limits. We're really glad that you're all interested. Everyone should try out. So with that, I think we'll have Brandon talk more about blue booking and why it matters.
All right, and with the blue booking, it's a crowd pleaser. So as was mentioned, I'm Brandon Fuller. I'm one of the executive footnote editors, and Dean Davies and Professor Huang were kind of talking about how blue booking and becoming a blue book expert can be valuable in your career, kind of no matter where you go. And so I'm here just to say a little bit more about that. Kind of the way that works is, with law review, there's kind of this notion that law review is just a powerful resume line, which it is. But beyond that, you get practical skill, and that should be a key consideration when you're thinking about doing competitions, or you're thinking about doing law review. You should really be asking, what's the practical skill I'm getting from this? And throughout the year that you're a junior staff, the work that we're doing right now, most of what you do is something called copy work, where you're just going footnote by footnote, kind of editing the citations and making sure they're cited correctly. And through that, you will eventually become a blue book expert. And that's just vastly important for any employment opportunity for sort of 2 main reasons. And the first one is that correct blue book citations do wonders for your credibility, especially as a new lawyer or an old lawyer, no matter how long you've been doing it. I don't know if any of you have thought about doing an internship with a judge. It's one of the best things you can do, but one of the big experiences I had during my internship was we got this brief it was a really brilliant legal argument. It was really persuasive for me. I was really into it. But almost every single footnote had something wrong with it, something like a space, or it was miscited in some way. And so when I went to talk to the judge about it, I was like, this was a great argument. It was a great brief, but there were all these problems with the citations. And she was personally offended that a lawyer would submit a brief to court that they didn't double check the citations. And from that point on, she was not willing to hear any of these arguments. She, her trust in that lawyer was just gone. And so the big thing is, if you sort of get this ability to just naturally, see where citations are incorrect, to know where to find the correct way to cite them, it does wonders for your credibility throughout your career. The second kind of thing is, we're all in a position here as law students, as future new lawyers, where, you're trying to find a way to make yourself indispensable to, wherever you go. And this carries from law firms, clerkships, government work, whatever legal field you happen to be in, you're trying to make yourself indispensable to the people there. And one of the best ways you can do that is to find the thing in the organization that nobody wants to do and become the best at it. And and blue booking is that thing. It's a fact of the legal profession. Nobody wants to do it. Nobody likes to. Well, a few people, maybe, I don't know, a few weird people, but nobody loves doing blue booking. And so if you can come into an organization as a brand new student and just be efficient and accurate with your Blue Book citations. That's your first impression to a lot of your employers, whoever you're working with. And if they see that you can do that quickly, they give you a 40-page document, they say, Blue Book cite this, you're done in an hour and it's perfect, they're gonna love you forever. And that's an easy thing you can do. You don't have to come up with the bombshell legal argument. You don't have to be a genius. You just have to be good at Blue Booking and they will love you forever. So in short, it's good for your credibility. It makes you indispensable. And yeah, Blue Booking is awesome. Yes.
So can you talk very briefly about if you've done other competitions besides law review and how you balance law review in those competitions and how law review helped you with those competitions?
Oh, great question, Mike. So my BFF Jen and I are currently doing trainer. And in that process, you write an appellate brief. It's a lot like the second memo that you write your 1L year. It's a little bit more persuasive. But in that, your Blue Book citations are key. That's a huge percentage of your grade for that. And your ability to do well in that brief, it relies heavily on you not spending hours and hours trying to make sure those citations are solid. So I think law review, definitely doing the first semester of law review, then rolling into the trainer, it just helped that brief go so much more smoothly. And with trainer, since I have the podium, I'll just talk about that a little bit. So I did appellate practice first, and then I rolled into trainer. That's the best way to do it. Appellate practice with Troy Boer is one of the greatest classes I've taken in law school so far. As far as just practical, sort of here's how you practice law kind of experience. And it rolls into trainer beautifully because you essentially do exactly what you do in trainer, except for somebody's there to answer your questions and tell you how to do it. It's wild. Because in trainer, you get the brief, the prompt, and then you write the brief and you don't see anybody until the competition. And so it's very, very much a competition. But sort of going back to Mike's question, it's very, very doable to do any of these competitions along with law review. Your law review commitments maybe, I don't know, what do you guys say, an hour, 2 hours a week, copy work, full work. It's it depends on the assignment, but it's not like law review is not going to take up all of your time as a 2L. And so it's very, very, you're able to do really whatever you want and law review. Any other questions while I'm up here? Nice. All right. Thank you guys. Do law review. Blue Book's awesome.
Okay, so we're going to have Richie come up. So he's the one that's going to be really handling your write-on process to get on to law review. He's going to give you some of the details, the dates to remember. Just a caveat, again, there will be another meeting that has more of the cogs and bolts, so don't worry if you walk away with this without a completely ironed out understanding of what your responsibilities will be. We want to just give you an overview, timeline, and then we'll open it up to questions again after that. So thanks, Richie.
Okay, give me half a second to get our slide up.
I have to run, but I'll take that half a second from you and say that there's no reason that I can conceive of that anybody in this room should not be applying to law review. If I were to take all of the double negatives out of that sentence, I would say everyone in this room should apply to law review. There, I can think of no reason that you should not. If you believe that you have a legitimate reason for not doing so, you are welcome to come by my office, and I will give you a lollipop to shut you up when they open.
Yeah, I think we're in. Thank you.
That's my pitch. Everyone should take this one. Goodbye.
All right. We're nearly there. Great. Okay, so, wow, there's so many screens I can use. That's nice. So again, I'm Richie. I will be helping you guys with the write-on, how you get onto law review. We've talked a lot about what it is, and we prepared a few slides to just summarize that for you. So for whatever we didn't cover, I'll briefly cover. Did we talk about 5 issues? No. So there are 5 issues to the law review as listed here, fall, spring. We met the editors for the environmental, but social justice. Cody isn't here, but also we have the symposium, which is sort of like a big meeting we have, and then it's like a conference, right? And then the authors and the scholars who participate in that publish in our symposium issue. Some of the benefits, I think we pretty much covered these, except for some of in total, because law review is a 2-year commitment, that's something that we should probably also make clear. So if you sign on to do it as a 2L, you're telling us you'll do it as a 3L. And that's really important because we rely on those numbers to keep the process smooth. So that actually means that it'll end up being 6 credits. The way that breaks down is 1 in the fall, your 2L and 3L year, and 2 in the spring with weekly assignments. This is what you'll be doing like in the nitty gritty. As a 2L, you'll check citations, like what Brandon, everyone's been talking about. You'll write a note, which is basically, well, I'll get there. Select articles for the next year, which is what we're doing and sort of what Professor Huang was talking about, where you get to call the authors and tell them that you'll be published. And you'll choose editor positions. And then the 3L year, you run the law review and you have various editorial duties. So this is the note. It's 8,000 words, which seems kind of daunting, but when you get going, you start to realize it's actually, it just takes a lot to get an idea out. So
Can you explain a little bit more about what it is?
Yeah. So what the note is actually just, if you've ever read an academic legal article, or if you haven't, there's basically, you take a subject within a body of law that might be developing or something that you think could be better. You just have an idea, a new idea, and you spend 8,000 words explaining your new idea. Do you have
I would describe it as like a mini law review article. You're essentially writing what amounts to half of a law review article, and in return for that, you get a law school writing requirement and the opportunity to maybe publish that mini article.
Yeah, so that's right. And the good thing is about the note is, so generally speaking, it'll be due your fall semester of your 2L year sometime around the end of October. But what that does is it makes it available for you if you're planning on applying for clerkships. You'll be able to use that as a writing sample, especially with the judges just came out and decided that they're going to take clerkships a little bit later, so it should be available to you as a writing sample, which is actually quite helpful when you're frantically trying to find a writing sample. You already have a note. It's not graded, so like all of law review, you have to write the note to get credit, but it's not graded. Like you're not going to get, if you write like what ends up being maybe not a great paper, or if you feel like it's not a great paper, it doesn't really matter. The point is that you do your best and you get it in and you'll get credit for it. But you also have the opportunity to publish with it. So there is incentive there to do your best, right? To write a compelling paper. Is that good? Okay. Right now, so for us, like on our spring and summer of our 2L year, you're still doing the citations, you're choosing who's going to be in editorial positions, and you're selecting articles. All right, this is the meat that really matters, I think, today. The write-on competition, so basically, let's see, what do we got here? Yeah, so this is what we weigh in with the write-on competition. There's a component that is your grades, your 1L grades, with your legal methods and legal research grades counting as double, their way to double in the calculation, and then the grade that you get on the development, which is sort of like, remember how a note was sort of like a law review article? The development is like a smaller version of a note. So instead of being 8,000 words, I think we cap it at 10 pages. So what you'll do there is you'll find a topic in the law that's a recent development or something like that, and you'll do essentially legal analysis. You'll put forth a new idea and write it, and it's actually quite manageable. And we have some resources here for you, and we'll get you these slides. It's going to be, you have a thought? No. Oh, it'll be due on June 1st. There really isn't a start date. I recommend beginning to think about what you might like to write about. I guess it doesn't really matter at this point if I tell you what I wrote about. I wrote about Tesla. If you remember not too long ago, there was a case at the Utah Supreme Court where Tesla was trying to be able to open up their dealerships here, and there was a battle about that. And I just analyzed the Supreme Court's opinion, and I decided whether I thought they handled it right or if it could have been different or what Tesla might be able to do in the future, just those types of questions. And I spent about 10 pages writing that. And so, oh yeah.
Can you talk to professors to get ideas on what to write about?
Absolutely. So if you were like me, when I was doing this and I was sitting in this meeting, I was trying to figure out my summer, like with vacation and with internships and with all that stuff, and I was thinking, how am I going to find a topic? And it was a little bit stressful. But professors ended up being hugely helpful because I came up with probably 5 or 6, and then I could walk to a professor and say, hey, these are my ideas, and they'd say, oh boy, don't touch that problem. That's a little bit over your head. Maybe this is a good problem, right? And it's really helpful because I think what's difficult when you're coming at it with not a lot of knowledge is to not know how big of a bite you're taking out of the subject. And that's where professors will help frame you and where you should be thinking in terms of your topic. It'll be due June 1st at 11:59 p.m. What will happen is the next time we meet, which will be in a few weeks to discuss the details on this, I will have a Twin page opened up. Everyone still knows about Twin? I know some people are switching to Canvas, but great. And there you'll find examples of previous or developments that have been selected. So that was also very helpful. We get a sense of what a development looks like. And those developments won't have been edited, so it'll be just what they turned in. So it'll give you a really good sense of what qualifies as a well-written development that'll help you get on. June 1st, 11:59 p.m. That unfortunately is going to be that's a hard date, hard time, and I know at least one person in our class who had electronic issues and some technology problems, and actually I think really caused some grief. So don't let that be you. Any other questions? Thoughts?
I understand that this is probably information overload. So for now, you need to be thinking about 2 things. 1, do I want to try out for law review? The answer to that question is yes, thinking over. 2, what do I need to be thinking about between now and Tuesday, April 3rd? And the answer to that is just a little bit about your note topic. So give me 1 second here.
Oh, wow.
Forgot to put this in the slide. Sorry, everybody. But the next time we meet is going to be Tuesday, April 3rd at noon in 4603, and we're going to have a half-hour to 45-minute long session that will actually break down the note requirements. So now that you've decided you're going to write on to law review, you can come to this meeting after spring break, and you'll get all the details of everything you need. There's so much information there, and it's a little overwhelming that we decided to split it up into 2 meetings because there's no way that we could cover it all today. So I hope to see all of your smiling faces, including 1Ls and 2Ls, on Tuesday, April 3rd at 4603. Yes? Sorry, the write-on development requirement. Thank you for clarifying that. There's so many different mini law reviews, it's a little confusing.
Will you guys talk about how cool it is that we all get to choose our own topics for our development and that it's not a mandated issue?
Yeah.
And how that really helps us out in the long run?
Would you like to take it?
I would love to talk about that. What Jen is trying to do is anticipate the overwhelming frustration you're going to have picking your own topic. This is for your own good, I promise. A long time ago, everybody used to have to write on the same topic like it was your 1L memo. That caused a lot of problems because every year a couple of people would somehow wander off into left field and they would turn in beautifully written papers and they would have awesome grades and they would do a great job, but somehow they just didn't connect the dots on this specific research assignment. When you do your own research, and then they got cut from law review. When you do your own research and you pick your own topic, that doesn't happen because you're in control. So it's frustrating, but honestly the stakes are really low because 1, you're competing against your peers, and 2, we're really more evaluating your writing ability and not your awesome legal argument. If you can't put forth a great legal argument, it's okay. You heard what Rich wrote, you should have seen what I wrote. Not hot takes, I can guarantee you that. We just want to know that you can write decently.
A couple more thoughts. So if you have questions about where to look for a topic, go to professors. That's a great idea too. I also am available. Consider me when the competition begins. I'm your go-to, so you can consider that happening. Beginning now. So if you have questions about what to do, examples of good topics, circuit splits, Supreme Court cases, things like that. The other thing I want to mention. After saying I'm available for your questions is also just to say that while grades are a factor, they're not everything. So if there are some people who are thinking I don't know if I have the grades to do this, just try, just do the write-on competition because If you were to look at the strata of students that are in law review, you would not think, oh, well, the only indicator there were the grades. So I just think, keep that in mind. Like, you should definitely try and not feel limited. Lots of questions, but I saw Chris first.
Last year, they made a big deal about anybody else that you're applying against.
Right. Don't worry about that until April 3rd.
Yes.
Will that session be recorded?
I think we can do that. It's just in a classroom, so we can probably talk to IT.
And we'll
get
send the
that done.
PowerPoint slides after, too.
Yeah. Yes.
I heard rumor of like a blue book quiz
Yeah.
after you get on or before?
It's after. So we don't give you the Blue Book quiz until you've been selected, because that would be rude.
Fail the Blue Book quiz like I did twice, you won't get cut from law review. It's okay.
So it's actually pretty cool, and I still, like, I might have really not written a great Tesla paper, but people come up with that, and I know a thing or two about it, and it's fun to be able to talk about it. This is a cool opportunity to just get yourselves into the legal academic world.
So the editors are going to stick around for a little bit after this, so if you have any specific questions, come up and talk to us. Other than that, I think that's it. Or if you see us in the halls, stop by and talk to us.
Okay.
Great.
I'll get back to you.
I only took, oh my God, Brenda's arm.
Oh, thanks. Yeah. I haven't seen you since last semester. I was like, do you guys still go? I don't know. Yeah.